Every business owner runs into the same tension in marketing, creating enough content to stay visible and drive sales without it turning into a full-time job. AI content tools promise a shortcut, but there's a hidden cost. The hours an owner expects to save can turn into hours spent cleaning up what AI got wrong, a time trap that erases the very savings they were counting on. Today, we're digging into what separates owners who avoid that trap from the ones who fall into it. I'm Scott Elliott with New Chapter Consulting, and this is Ownership Essentials, practical insights for successful business ownership. Now, my guest today is Maya Alexander. She's an entrepreneur and she's a creative strategist who builds at the intersection of technology, media, and consumer experiences. She's the founder of State of Sonder, where she helps founders, brands, and businesses create premium content at the speed that modern marketing demands, all without sacrificing the story that makes people care. Maya, I'd like to welcome you to the show today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Scott. Happy to be here.
No, it's really terrific. I've been excited about this topic. It cuts deep for me as a business owner. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about State of Sonder. What does that mean? Why did you start
Yeah,
it? What do you
for
do?
sure. Yeah, thank you so much. So, State of Sonder is an AI media and content creation agency. I started the studio because I've always been interested in filmmaking. I've worked in filmmaking and I've been on set production. However, I have noticed kind of the production cost surrounding it, and something that kind of pulled me back a little bit was having to save up so much for that production cost of just a simple 10-minute short film, things along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I started the studio because businesses are under an enormous amount of pressure to create more content than ever before, very frequently across a lot more platforms. So
Mm-hmm.
they're basically kind of being asked to operate as like their own media studios at the same time on top of running their actual day to day. So
That's
when
right.
I began, yeah, it's a lot. It can be so much. So when I began kind of working with these tools and seeing how much AI was becoming in the industry, because a lot of times we only think about AI automation, not necessarily for marketing and content making. I was realizing there is a disconnect between the quality and also still conveying that story behind your brand. And that's kind of what Sonder even means. The word Sonder, it's the realization that every person you encounter is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. So definitely wanting to keep the essence of what makes honestly AI content more real and feel like it's still a human behind it. Wanted to really kind of connect those two between human storytelling and also the new technology that is in the society. So that's what State
Yeah.
of Sonder is.
I love it. No, that's great. And I think you're so perfect for that kind of role because you're so interested in people and their stories. You're really good at tech. Both of us had spent some time at AWS and all that. So, yeah, I think it's a great fit for you. And I'm excited to have this conversation today. What we kind of settled on as far as the theme goes, because like you mentioned, AI has opened up a lot of capabilities,
Mhm.
and many times our first thought is, hey, I can do without all that expensive production stuff. I'll just have AI do it for me. It's cheap, it's easy, the work's done for me. But we wanted to talk a bit today about the hidden costs of using AI for content creation, because studios like yourself, I think, are playing an even more valuable role now that we have all these AI powered tools for content creation, right? So
Mhm.
maybe we get into that. Let's start broad. What are you seeing now in terms of business owners turning to AI for their content needs? What's really driving that shift for them, do you think?
Yes, honestly, I think it's just the whole output game. Right now, kind of in terms of I wasn't alive in terms of when email became a thing, but now everybody needs an email. Like that's just kind of essential. And I do feel like we're in the dawn already where it's almost required. If you don't have a personal brand, you at least have a brand that you're running. I feel like we're definitely in that time, even from a local business perspective. And what I deal with is I deal with kind of the gray area in terms of business owners. I feel like we
Okay.
have people who are hopping on content creation using AI and really just ready to go using it. But depending on how you use it, you can either lose trust very quickly if you're just focused on the output and not the quality. And then we have people that really just don't want to use AI at all. They don't want to touch it. And then you have that gray area of people who are like, I can't do this all on my own. Maybe I can use AI as a supplement in terms of all the content that I'm already making,
Mhm.
um, without really having to take away that human essence that I already provide. And then also, there's in that gray area, there are people that just feel really cornered by all of it. It's like, okay, I hear about it all the time. I don't know how to use it. I don't even know what to post. Do I have to create the creative direction? Do I need to, what's my brand story even? All the things that typically a media company would do, AI can help with and really get that done with 10 times the speed. But you do need to kind of keep that human in the loop because it doesn't necessarily help with judgment.
Let's just peel that back a little bit more. So you have this gray area of
Mhm.
owners, not the ones who are anti-AI and not the
Mhm.
ones that are such early adopters and they love the tech and they're just all in and they're mastering it on their own. All those people in the middle, when they finally say, okay, I need to adopt some of these AI content strategies or tools,
Mhm.
what are they expecting is going to happen to their time and their output? Like what are
Mm.
business owners thinking they're going to get by making those investments?
Yes, for sure. So I feel like what they typically expect is just immediate publish ready work, more output with less effort, brand consistency without explaining or repeating the brand, fewer outside professionals and lower production cost, and kind of just one subscription, you'd say, in a way, to replace an entire creative process. All of this is possible. It definitely is, but there is more that goes into it than just kind of that automatic, like everything's ready to go. We need to really talk through, like, how do you even want to be portrayed? What kind of content do you even want out there about you? How visible do you want to be? There's kind of so many things that go on in the back end that I feel like a lot of owners aren't necessarily ready to, not that they're not ready to talk about, it's just more than they thought would even have to go into it. They really thought they could kind of just put in be like, okay, here's what I have. Go ahead, just create whatever. But
Yeah.
if you're not creating content with kind of a core theme, it's like, what are we really even doing? What are you going to get out of it? What's your audience going to get out of it?
Yeah. Well, all those things you bring up, right? The faster speed, more consistency, rely less on outside professionals for things that I don't actually have the skills to do, but AI has the skills to do, so it's going to do it
Mhm.
for me. How much of, I mean, and we can be real brutally honest here. We all love AI. I use it every day. ChatGPT told me last year I was a top 3% user in my, end of year things. I'm all for it. It's all good. But how much of the promise actually holds up in practice?
That's a great question because a lot of times what I really kind of have to talk through, and an analogy I love to give is AI does give you acceleration, but acceleration without any direction, it can just help you arrive at the wrong destination a lot faster. So that's just a common analogy that I love to give any clients that I'm speaking to, because the meaningful part is that AI is exceptional when it comes to ideation, early drafts, kind of really removing some of the blank page problems in terms of like, what can I make? What content really surrounds my business? Especially if you think you're a business that doesn't necessarily even need content. A lot of times we're realizing like, no, like there's so much content you can make. Where the promise breaks down, I'd say a little bit, is just that the assumption of speed of generation equals speed of final approval. I think that's the part where there's kind of a disconnect because you can have an output, but the output can be very generic and it can be very inconsistent. I think that even just when I'm trying not to get too technical, so tell me if
Mhm.
I am.
No, it's okay.
Um,
It's okay.
but I feel like when it comes to just AI media content, not AI automation that we typically hear about when we're talking about I think that the disconnect is you're used to just putting in a prompt in AI and then getting your output, maybe tweaking it a little bit. Whereas when it comes to AI media, you're putting in a prompt, you're adding the reference images, you're adding the elements, there's so many different other kind of aspects that you have to add in order for it to really kind of follow through, remain consistent, and really get that final approval. So that's kind of
Mhm.
where I feel like the promise holds up in terms of ideation, getting those kind of first drafts. It kind of breaks down into assuming that just because I'm using I can do everything now, and then kind of putting out, I don't want to say AI slop, but things that would lose customer trust in a way.
Yeah, we're going to use the term AI slop a few
Yep.
times in this
Sure.
conversation
No
because I'm
problem.
I'm a bit fed up with it myself. But let's talk about that trust thing because we've all seen the content, whether it's the images or the videos or even the written content that just looks or reads off and or just very formulaic. It's like this was written by AI, and you immediately are like, "Do I even want to read this, right? Or do I even want to watch this?" Is there any evidence that does damage to a business, like, or to a personal brand if that AI slop gets released under someone's name? Or is it just, hey, the more the better? There's no such thing as bad publicity. You're generating that content. The search engines are indexing you. The AI, the answer engines are
Mhm.
using you. Like, what are we seeing in the data? Does it hurt,
Yeah.
or do we just think it hurts?
For sure. That is a great question. Truth be told, it depends on the industry.
Mm,
I've seen what I would consider AI slop. I've seen some channels do very, very well. So they just keep going with it. And a lot of times the type of AI slop I see that does well, it's always when it's just kind of like a funny character type situation, like that's
mhm.
made and along those lines. In terms of when it's like a product and a product brand, it definitely does hurt engagement when you're putting out that AI slop.
I'm glad you're talking about this because
Yeah.
maybe we should just define, AI slop is one of those suitcase words. What it means
Yeah.
to me may not mean what it means to you. So let's put a box around it. What is AI slop to you? And let's just be clear about what we're talking about.
To me, it's when the model has 6 fingers, when the thumb is
Mhm.
where the pinky should be,
Okay.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and when it
Yeah.
clearly looks fake, like when
Mhm,
it's not even trying to look real. I feel like it was
mhm.
maybe probably just whoever made it put it through one generation,
Yeah.
without reiterating anything or adding in camera angles or anything along those lines.
Mhm,
Um, it's very much just generic language. It's character inconsistency, incorrect products, a lot of distorted details,
mhm.
everything that just is not professional, in my
Right.
opinion,
Right.
what I would
Yeah.
would put under AI slop umbrella.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you're very much into the visual elements, which are very, very impactful, and AI is giving us the ability to create things that were undreamed of even 5 years ago that could
Mhm.
be done by an individual or a small team. But even in writing, like I see this a lot in content on LinkedIn, for example, which I'm not the only one observing it, right? Everybody's talking about it. LinkedIn even added the AI slop, button right on things when things are written to a formula. They sound almost like they might be intelligent, but it's just random word generator just putting in these things. So okay, so I think we got a nice clear picture about this AI slop. So there's quality issues we've talked about, whether it's visual quality issues, visual inconsistency, poor story, just bad writing. Uh, what other risks do you think there are with AI generated content? Things that if you're a business owner,
Mhm.
you need to be careful when you let
Oh, yeah.
AI do content and you hit publish.
Oh, yeah. Mhm. So true. This is honestly an area where I personally, even as somebody who works in the AI space making AI content, I want there to be a lot more regulation
Mm,
in this area because something I won't do and a big risk is just anything that's like a false advertising claim.
mhm.
I can't make or I just won't make before and after images that are not real. I'm not just gonna
Oh, that's very
and
wise. Yeah.
it's so easy to do that, and just
Hmm.
because I don't, doesn't mean that somebody else won't. So
Hmm.
that is something that we're seeing. I mean, there's a latest segment that came out about that on, like, GMA, I saw just in terms of how you can have just fake advertising claims, and then also very much just fabricated facts and statistics and quotes and product information created by bots to make it appear as though that was something that's like a proven claim or something. Um, and it's not to say that this hasn't been happening before, but now we're just seeing it way more prevalent. I also something I think we're going to hear more about is just kind of likeness and consent arguments in terms of like models and people. And it's the wild part of everything now is you can make your own model. You can make a digital model. You can make multiple models and they can look exactly like a person that you didn't even know they looked like somebody. But then they're reaching out to their agency saying, this person used me, this company used me. There's so much happening there. I
Hmm.
know that a lot of companies, these kind of AI tech giants, they are kind of doubling down on AI slop. But when it comes to the overall risk as a whole, there's so much that we still need to do. Because there's stuff that can look real, even just in terms of media literacy. My
Hmm.
mom will send me these reels all the time. And I'm just like, I love it,
Yeah.
but you do know that's AI, right? She's like,
Yeah.
really? And then even
Yeah.
my little cousins, like Gen Alpha, I'm over here in Gen Z thinking I'm like not that far away from them, but a lot of the content they've seen has always been AI and they didn't even
It's all
realize
they
it.
know. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I'm just
No.
like, wow. Like, so just
Yeah.
the literacy behind everything is something too that I'm really just, I don't want to say concerned about because it doesn't help to worry.
But you're aware of the risk in
Oh,
places where maybe a business owner might not be.
yeah.
Like hallucination has been a thing with AI
Yeah.
models since the beginning. And
Hmm.
yet a lot of people who are just starting to use AI in the last year or so may just trust whatever it creates. They may say that, hey, I gave it my document and told it to write an email about it. And
Right.
so I just trust that it used it. It's a computer, but it
Hmm.
creates, it invents, it creates facts. It's a creation machine. It's not a
Hmm.
fact checking machine, right? So accuracy problems, false statements, false
Hmm.
advertising. In
Hmm.
my world, compliance, like
Yeah.
FTC
Privacy.
regulation. Oh, then
Mhm.
privacy. You got
Uh-huh.
privacy issues as
So
well,
much.
right? So,
Of
so,
course.
so the fact that you're aware of these things, I think a business owner who's wants to use AI to accelerate
Mhm.
their content creation, having someone like you in their corner who can point out or at least be one barrier to hey, you know what, let's not let that get out into the wild because
Yeah.
it's dangerous, right?
Um,
It's dangerous for our brand and for our image and
mhm.
even for legal issues or whatever that could come up.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a big concern is just the legal issues and then how thin the regulations are right now. I still find that really like interesting how I feel like, we're very much test subjects. I feel like our society right now in terms of we have all this opportunity, all this AI, but yet it's really still not necessarily too regulated. I know we're working on that, but I feel like we're very much quite a few steps behind in terms of the regulation that we need there.
Well, and there's so many layers to regulation, right?
Yeah.
So regulating AI, what it can and can't do, what it can and
Mhm.
can't comment on, what material it can use
Mhm.
for whatever, like who
Yeah.
can have access to what information. But even old school regulations. So
Mhm.
in my world as a franchise consultant, I'm regulated by the FTC that I
Mhm.
cannot make any financial performance claims about a franchise that are not documented in its FDD, in its financial or in its franchise disclosure document.
Mhm.
And yet, almost every time I start with, hey, I need AI to help me ideate on something, it will come up with non compliant claims all the time, write emails, throw in financial performance claims that either invents or it saw online.
Mhm.
And now, as an owner, I have to stop and say,
Mhm.
no, strike all these things. And it doesn't matter if I prompt
Mhm.
it, it
Yeah.
will say, "Oh, sorry, I know you said don't do that, but I figured I would do it anyway." Right. So
Mhm.
this is where we come up with this time trap.
Yep.
The hours that you think you're going to save by using AI to generate this for you, you're now, instead of paying somebody else to help you generate it right the first time, you're
Mhm.
spending time and effort on cleanup.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm an owner who's in that place, asterisk, I am an owner who's in that place. I'm constantly having to clean up AI. What's our next move? What do we do as an owner when we find that we've just moved our time to cleaning up the stuff?
Mhm. Mhm.
What do we do?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Something that I always recommend is pre-prompting a workplace in your AI. So a lot of times we hear about how like you can create your own custom chatbot on
Mhm.
Chat GPT. You can also do like the same similar thing on with Claude Cowork.
Mhm.
And I always want a pre-prompt that really outlines like this is my company. Whenever I'm saying anything related to my company, only pull information from either this creative brief, this site, specific areas that are because I can only use like statistics and facts that were listed on their site. If I get something that had a random um, quote or something that was not on or stat that was not on the site, I'm not going to be using it just for to protect myself and my business as well. So what I think is always important is first you want to audit not only where your time is lost or how much time you're spending on content and content creation, but also all the information that you have related to your business. And then you want to kind of standardize it in terms of, what is my brand brief? What are some approved examples, visual references? What are workflows and things that I know I can say, claims that I am approved to say, things along those lines. And then you want to assign what you feel like AI can handle for you and your business, and then what a
Mhm.
creative professional should handle. Because you do need to keep a human in the loop, and you as the owner want to be the one that has the final approval of everything. You want to be seeing everything that goes out. I honestly think it's better where you don't see it from the beginning, but you start with it, you see what's on it, you see what's allowed, and then you see the final output. Because sometimes if you're seeing it all the way from the beginning, there's stuff that you just miss. I
Mm.
see that. I've realized that just more and more. Like even with me, in terms of just having my follow ups and check ins and follow throughs, it's always it always helps to have just more than one eye, even
Mhm.
as the human in the loop. And then review it, of course. You want to review everything alongside somebody and other people kind of in your business and in your corner. I'd also say just like stop adding more tools. That's also another one. It's so easy to do that. And I feel like a lot of them, even just when I'm talking to clients, like, well, I use this for this and I use this for this. A lot of things are just wrappers. It's all the
Yeah.
same. Yeah, it's all the same back end, but it all says like, oh, we specialize in this side of content creation, and then we can do this side of editing and all the things. It's like sometimes you don't need more tools. You need more of a system because
Yeah.
having five different tools, you're just kind of wasting time and money at that point.
I saw, no lie, a LinkedIn post, I think 2 days ago. Somebody posted top 30 AI tools for go-to-market teams.
Whew.
And I just started, just the reading it, I was exhausted. I'm like, who wants to coordinate 30 tools? Even if you're only picking 10 of
Yeah,
them, who wants that, right?
exactly.
And you're exactly right. This proliferation of
Mm,
tools is just dangerous, right?
yeah.
And more places to break down. You've used the term a few times now, human in the loop, which is fantastic. It's been a
Mm,
foundational concept since early AI adoption.
mhm.
Walk us through what that looks like day to day for a small business owner. Uh, Does human in the loop mean they're constantly overseeing a tool? Does it mean finding somebody to be that human in the loop? Like you've painted some of that picture, but
Yeah.
try give us that a clear kind of day to day look for a business owner.
Yeah, for sure. So for a business owner, when I refer to like having a human in the loop, whether it
Mhm.
be, it can be them in the beginning. I just always suggest there be another person that's a part of the business as well, just to have at least two eyes on everything.
Mhm.
But you want somebody to define the objective, the audience. You want to know what type of content you're trying to make in terms of what emotional response do you want to receive from the content? Because sometimes you're not always I mean, of course, we always want a sale. Usually that's always kind of the focus. But a lot of times, what is going to create somebody to convert is to really get that emotional response at hand. So they also want to, the human should also supply the accurate brand and product information and establish those visual boundaries, as well as verbal boundaries, kind of the brand voice that you want to have. When it comes to the production process, once somebody like me or a studio has all the assets that they need, the human will select the outputs, they will direct any revisions, and they'll also like reject any work that is can honestly be technically impressive, but strategically wrong in terms of what they're wanting to portray and get at and the brand voice that they want to convey. Cause, a lot of times content or with AI, it's so cool. We can do all the things. It's whoa, 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 so cool. But it's like, oh, is this even what we're trying to do? Sometimes you even want kind of that stripped back content out there. And then also something that's really important in terms of just having that human in the loop is just a fact checker. So needed. Also just reviewing the claims and the permissions, checking the names, the logos, all the calls to actions, and the final approval. And then something that I personally always encourage too, as we're talking about all the different technologies that we can use in managing, I think there should be somebody that's like dedicated to AI orchestration. I feel like that's an area that is going to become even more talked about because we always hear like, oh yeah, we don't have to have all these employees and pay all this payroll. Right now, your AI agents, those are your employees. Those are becoming something you have to manage those because they can break, they can hallucinate. You have to continually make sure that your guardrails are in check.
Yeah. Yeah. And AI orchestration, I can tell you, is the last thing on the mind of most small business owners, right?
So true.
Yeah, no, it is.
Mhm.
I'm going to just go down a little stroll down memory lane here. You mentioned earlier you weren't alive when email was started. I absolutely was. And there are several trends we see. Things like, I remember when we didn't have cell phones, we only had landlines. And you know what bothers me is cell phones came out, the phone quality, quality of the phone calls, audio plummeted. Like cell phones were terrible. They're like old landlines. You know, the landlines in the 90s were really nice, nice. They were always trying to improve quality.
Yeah.
I feel like AI is doing something similar to us with things like it used to be so important to have your facts checked, to never release something that was inaccurate. And because Claude and ChatGPT will always just ignore your instructions and say, yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. My bad. Let me fix it now. The world is becoming that way. How many people are just saying, oh yeah, sorry, our bad. That was wrong. Here's the new way. It feels like we're just backsliding. So the reason I wanted to think about that for a minute is what you said, fact checkers. I love that. I think that's so important.
And I'm hoping in the future that that kind of is just like added into regulation in terms of um, like something companies can do is they can have like a bunch of like AI influencers, and even if they say like the wrong thing or whatnot, they can just pull that influencer, and then it's like they can still just like start fresh. So, um, what is interesting about the fact checking is there's so many workarounds right now with AI. So I am hoping that kind of down the line as we progress, I do hope that that becomes kind of more strictly enforced because it kind of is really interesting in a scary way how easy it is to work around with the use of AI tools and all those things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It really is in so many ways. It's a leap forward technologically and even what's available, what's capable, and so many steps backward throughout the pandemic. I had done a lot of reading around the founding fathers of the United States and the battles that they had in the papers, right? The way they would write against each other. A lot of the libel laws we have now came as a result of the terrible things that were written about each other back then. And it feels almost like we're sliding back into some of that. There's this bad behavior. Like, I thought we beat this already, but now the new tools are just letting us go back to, like you said, false advertising, wrong facts, hallucinations, and it's getting out there. It's making it to publication either in videos or audio recordings or in print. So let's, I hate to be a doom and gloom. You might sense there's a frustration that I have because I've wrestled with this. I've tried to be my own fact checker. I've tried to iterate and iterate and iterate and still not get what I need. I know I need help. What should an owner look for when they're trying to find somebody? Because going back to the original intent, we want high quality content for less than the cost of having a full-time content creator. Like, what, I can't hire a full-time content creator, not in my budget. What should I look for when I'm looking for a person or a service to help me? what types of
Mhm.
skills should I be looking for and whatnot?
For sure. I would say it's important that you're meeting somebody that is asking about your business before they're talking about the tools and what I can do for you, all the things. Because if they automatically start saying, I can do this and I can do that, they're not even trying to kind of hear where you want to go with your content. And they're also kind of applying the same strategy to everyone. And everybody's strategy is going to be different. I also think it's important to be very honest with certain industries and companies. Like there are some companies where using humans will just be better. Um, it like in particular, like a certain like industry I'm thinking of about is when it comes to like pets or anything animal
Mm.
related. Just
Yeah.
use real pets. Like it doesn't need to be an AI. I mean, sure, you can throw that in there a little bit, but it actually end up kind of being comparable in terms of spend in some industries, not all, but
Mhm.
that's kind of an outlier, I feel like. And then you want something that can explain the strategy behind content, and then also just gives you ideas in terms of what has strong storytelling and has strong judgment. Because something that I do feel like is going to be kind of more of the story behind content is just the founder's story. A lot of
Mm.
times, like we've kind of just had such a long span of time where as long as you had somebody that was like super beautiful and a very attractive man and just these beautiful visuals, that was the only kind of method that you needed. And now we're kind of I'm actually glad that we're kind of getting tired of that. That still works, but I mean, now we want to know just the story behind the brand. Like, who put this together? How are you doing this? How are you running this? You
Mhm.
also want to make sure they understand brand consistency across multiple assets. The list can go on and on. Honestly, I'm
Mhm.
like really just pulling so many, but
Oh, well, no, I'm glad you are though. I mean, these are all good considerations.
Mhm.
Um, there is, I mean, there are certain things that even though people do them, they shouldn't do them, right? They put a legal document up into Claude and say,
Mhm.
read this like you're an attorney and tell me what the red flags are. What a terrible idea, right?
Mhm.
I mean, as a first pass before you
Mhm.
talk to an actual attorney, that's fantastic, right? It helps you really prepare. What are some red flags and some education? But as a substitute,
Mhm.
there's some things AI just should not substitute
Yeah.
for. And I think that the things you described, like the brand strategy, what
Mhm.
stories do we want to tell and why, to which audiences, and what are the
Yeah.
details of that audience?
Mhm.
You want somebody who can help you do that, because although ChatGPT and Claude and others, Gemini, will give you a really great story and they'll sound very convincing,
Mhm.
they might have just made the whole thing up. There might be no data at all behind it. They
Yeah.
just sound very authentic. So there's still a
Mhm.
lot of value in that expertise when you're trying to create the strategy.
It's
Yeah,
so true, so true, and
yeah,
I've realized, like, ChatGPT is very much a cheerleader. I feel like it will never
really
let
is.
push back. I'm like, "Come on now, give like, even if you are using AI, which everybody is,
Mhm.
I always would prompt it with, like, "Okay, provide pushback." Like, what would not do well here? Like, even if it's a great idea, all the things, always ask for pushback, and then also, I think acknowledging that, you know, it can take spending some money in the front end to build trust in the back end, in terms of, like, actually consulting with, like, a lawyer, truly putting in, money into a traditional production photo shoot just of your, like, brick and mortar, if you have a brick and mortar, so that you have all those reference images that I could use and turn into, like, okay, you wanna have, somebody walking in and then trying out this new drink that you just launched at your coffee shop. Things along those lines, like, it can cost money on the front end to really build up that trust, and on the back end is very important.
Yeah. No, no, those are all really good points. And I think we'll learn those lessons, right?
Mhm.
But it really is important, to have a
Mhm.
voice like yours, right? To say, okay, here's the checklist, here's the priorities, here's what we
Mhm.
should do in the real world to
Yeah.
serve as a foundation for our, saving
Mhm.
money for virtual photo shoots down the road, right?
Yeah.
So it's good. So let's paint a nice positive picture now. So when
Mhm.
this is done well, right? Because this can be done well. Owners are a lot of people would definitely say that the pros have outweighed the cons, right? That we are generating more quality engagement
Mhm.
content even with all the pain and suffering that goes with it in this world of
Mhm.
AI. So when this is done well and you have the right partner and the right skills at the table
Mhm.
and the owner is able to find that balance, what does the payoff look like?
When the balance is right, personally, what I like to relieve my clients from is they're no longer trapped between two bad options in terms of either disappearing online or becoming a full-time content creator. There can be a happy medium. They will have a repeatable system in terms of also building up that kind of I love just when you have workflows with a client in terms of, you're going to meet at this time, they're going to get their output at this time and really built up their brand voice. You know what they want, what you can recommend to them, all those type of things. Um, I would also say that a great payoff is when you have that consistency, you have that creative range and faster testing and ability to ability for the owner to really go back to the parts of the business that they truly enjoy instead of being so caught up in the content machine because it is an ocean of content nowadays.
It
There
really
is
is.
just so much. And then something I also encourage, I mean, people definitely don't have to do this, but I really think treating AI content as supplemental, I know I kind of touched on this earlier. I think that is honestly the game changer because when people have what like true, especially if you're a local company, a local shop, when you have that content that's like made by the owner, locals in the community, on top of that, if you want kind of cinematic content or just some extra content on the side, I think still having that true, like authentic connection, because at the end of the day, AI can't be it's everywhere, but it
Mhm.
can't be, it's not personified. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have those type things. So really having and bringing in those local stories, I think is also a good payoff to have is using AI content as a supplement, but not as, your whole meal.
Yeah, yeah. All good things. I like that, Maya. Thank you. Now, are there any things we didn't touch on today that you think are an important part of this story?
Mhm.
Like, did you have any closing thoughts or conclusions that you'd like to share?
Yes, I mean, I would say for just to like small business owners and business owners as a whole, of course, I love when anybody wants to use AI and have more AI content, but the human in me always just wants to, I do want to be clear in terms of AI cannot do everything. And if we always automatically kind of go in with the mindset of AI can do everything and I can create everything so much faster and quicker, you'll actually end up losing trust more quickly than out of all the time it took you to earn it.
Mhm.
So that's something that I would definitely really want to hone in is that, AI is great, but just don't see it as the end all be all. And then also take your time in terms of really figuring out the type of content you want out there, how you want to be portrayed, how you want your business to be portrayed, what you're comfortable sharing, what you're not comfortable sharing. I feel
Mhm.
like there's just so many different ways that you can go about content, and it doesn't always need to be the extreme editorial fancy this, fancy that. I love making that content. I really do. However, there needs to be a balance between like, what is your story? What do you really want to put out there that makes you different from all the other businesses that are out there that are in the same field? And I know that that can take a bit of digging, but if we really think about it, I mean, just like every person has a story, every business has a story because the person behind there, they built it and they made it and they kind of took a leap of faith in really getting it to where it's at. So I could go on and on because I am passionate about all of
Oh,
this, but I'll
that's
stop
great.
there.
Yeah. No, no, I think all of those are fine and valid points. Maya, if somebody would like to engage with you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yes, for sure. So my site, stateofsonder.com. I
Okay.
have all my information on there. Definitely recommend reaching out. I also have my email, the contact page. Everything is on
Mhm.
stateofsonder.com.
Okay. Stateofsonder.com. Maya, thanks so much for chatting with me today. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart.
Mhm.
It's not so directly applicable to, like in my world as of franchisees and franchisors, many times franchisors will handle digital marketing and
Mhm.
brand assets for their franchisees. So the people who are my clients many times don't have to deal with this to the same extent, but it is a huge problem for the franchisors themselves, as well as for the 90% of businesses out there that are non-franchise, right? Independent owners who are trying to win this content battle and have a good experience and build trust, with their clients. So thank you for being with me today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this was great. I appreciate it.
Loads of fun.
Yeah.
What a nice conversation with Maya. We called out the time trap. The hours you expect to save generating with content with AI can really turn into hours spent on cleanup instead. Maya's answer to avoiding that trap wasn't to avoid AI, of course not, but it was to strategically keep a human in the loop. Use human judgment for pre-prompting your brand guardrails, keeping a human on final approval, and treating AI as a supplement to your story. Those types of things really create the distinction between owners who get the payoff and owners who stay stuck in cleanup. My name is Scott Elliott. I work with people who are exploring franchise ownership and want a knowledgeable guide through the process. If that's you, I'd love to connect. Thank you for joining me for Ownership Essentials.